too weak. The words cracked across the packed martial arts gym like a slap, loud enough to silence every conversation within earshot. A few students laughed immediately. Others glanced toward the woman standing near the entrance, waiting to see how she would react. She simply shifted her weight onto her left leg, the slightest limp visible as she steadied herself, her expression calm in a room suddenly overflowing with judgment. The young black belt smiled wider. To him, she wasn't a person. She was an opportunity, an easy target. A chance to prove how tough he was in front of an audience. What he couldn't possibly know was that the woman, standing quietly beneath the bright fluorescent lights, had already survived battles that never came with applause. Trophies or black belts, she had spent years rebuilding Essa. A life that most people would have surrendered. Real strength had taught her something. Arrogance never could. Sometimes the strongest person in the room is the one who refuses to prove it. The Eastwood Community Athletic Center in Houston, Texas was alive with noise on a humid Thursday evening. The heavy scent of disinfectant, mixed with worn canvas mats, fresh coffee from the lobby cafe, and the unmistakable smell of sweat from hours of training, parents lined the folding chairs around the practice floor, while children chased each other through the hallways. Phones recorded demonstrations as family members cheered every successful throw and kick. It was Community Self-Defense Night, one of the busiest events of the month. Police officers from the local precinct had partnered with neighborhood volunteers to encourage safer communities, stronger relationships, and practical self-defense education. A patrol vehicle sat outside the building with its emergency lights flashing softly, not because of danger, but as part of the community outreach event. Several officers greeted families at the entrance, shaking hands with children and answering questions about safety and public service. Near the back of the gym stood Monica Carter, 39 years old, a proud black woman. Former emergency dispatcher, single mother, volunteer mentor. She wasn't there to impress anyone. She wasn't even there to participate. She had come to support her 16-year-old niece, Ava, who had recently joined the Youth Confidence Program after struggling with bullying at school. Monica promised she would never miss one of Ava's events because she understood what encouragement could mean to a young person. Searching for confidence, she wore a plain, olive-green athletic shirt beneath a lightweight denim jacket, dark jeans carefully tailored around the sleek carbon fiber prosthetic below her right knee, and clean white sneakers. Her natural curls were pulled into a neat bun, and a small silver necklace rested against her collarbone. If someone looked closely, they would notice the slight rhythm of her walk. Step click, step click. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't something Monica tried to hide anymore. It was simply part of who she was. Most people never noticed. Others noticed immediately across the training mat. Derek Lawson noticed at 28. Derek had become one of the youngest black belt instructors in the city. Athletic, confident, and undeniably talented, he had built a loyal following on social media by posting flashy sparring videos and motivational speeches about toughness. His students admired his speed. His online followers admired his confidence. Unfortunately, somewhere along the way, confidence had quietly transformed into arrogance. To Derek, respect wasn't earned through humility. It was demanded through intimidation. He loved performing almost as much as teaching. Every class became another stage. Every student became another audience. As he finished demonstrating a spinning takedown, applause echoed through the gym. Derek bowed dramatically before turning toward the spectators, scanning the room with the practiced confidence of someone accustomed to being the center of attention. That was when his eyes landed on Monica. She wasn't watching him. She was smiling proudly as Eva adjusted her protective gloves. Across the room to Derek, that looked like indifference. His smile faded. He disliked being ignored. He wiped sweat from his forehead with a towel, before walking confidently toward the edge of the mat, where several students followed behind him, eager to hear whatever came next. One of the younger students leaned closer and quietly asked Coach, "Who's that lady?" Derek shrugged carelessly. "No idea," he replied, loud enough for nearby spectators to hear. "But judging by that limp, I don't think she's here to demonstrate anything." Several students chuckled. Monica heard every word. She slowly looked up. Not with anger, not with embarrassment, simply with the quiet composure of someone who had learned long ago that another person's ignorance says far more about them than it ever could about you. Monica held Derek's gaze for only a moment, before looking back toward the youth training area. Ava had just finished fastening her gloves, and the teenager responded with an excited wave from across the gym. Monica smiled and waved back, refusing to let one stranger's careless remark steal the reason she had come. That quiet response irritated Derek far more than if she had argued. He was used to reactions: anger, embarrassment, excuses. Instead, she gave him nothing. The absence of a reaction felt like a challenge to someone who depended on attention. He tossed the towel over his shoulder and walked closer, his students naturally falling in behind him. Several younger members looked eager, assuming their instructor was about to make another joke. Monica noticed them approaching but stayed where she was. Her hands rested comfortably in the pockets of her denim jacket as she watched Ava practicing footwork with the other teenagers. "You here for somebody?" Derek asked loudly. "My niece Monica," answered politely. "She's over there, good for her." Derek replied with a grin. "Hopefully she inherited better balance than you." A few students laughed. Others looked down at the floor. The joke didn't land with everyone. Monica remained composed. "I hope she grows into a kind person," she answered. Her words weren't sarcastic. They were sincere. That unexpected response caused one older woman sitting nearby to glance up from her phone. Across the gym, Officer Daniel Ruiz, a veteran community policing officer helping supervise the outreach event, noticed several heads turning toward the entrance. He couldn't hear the conversation over the music and children's voices, but years of working neighborhood events had taught him to recognize when laughter started carrying the wrong tone. He quietly shifted his position without interrupting the youth demonstrations, choosing to observe before stepping in. Meanwhile, Derek mistook Monica's calmness for weakness. "You know," he continued, folding his arms, "our classes are pretty demanding." He looked deliberately toward her prosthetic leg. "Not everyone is built for this." Another ripple of laughter spread through the younger students. One teenage boy chuckled before his father gently nudged his shoulder. "That's enough," the father whispered. "We don't laugh at people." The boy immediately looked embarrassed. Nearby, Ava finally noticed the growing crowd around her aunt. She removed one glove and frowned. "Coach, can I grab some water?" she asked her youth instructor. "Go ahead." Instead of heading toward the fountain, Eva started walking quickly toward Monica. Before she reached them, Derek spoke again. "You know what the biggest problem is these days?" He looked around as though delivering another motivational speech. "People expect sympathy instead of strength." He tapped the black belt tied neatly around his waist. "This wasn't given to me, I earned it. You don't become strong by asking the world to feel sorry for you." Several people exchanged uncomfortable glances. Monica's expression never changed. "I agree," she replied softly. "Strength has to be earned." For a split second, Derek almost smiled. He assumed she was agreeing with him. What he didn't understand was that Monica wasn't talking about martial arts. She was talking about every physical therapy session she had endured, every painful morning she learned to walk again, every interview where someone doubted her ability, every stranger who stared at her prosthetic before looking her in the eyes, every obstacle she had quietly overcome without demanding recognition. Officer Ruiz slowly approached from the far side of the gym, remaining respectful while keeping the situation in view. Community events were meant to build trust, not create humiliation. He hoped the instructor would recognize he had crossed a line before someone was forced to intervene. Eva finally reached her aunt's side. "Aunt Monica," she asked quietly. "Everything okay?" Monica smiled warmly. "I'm fine, sweetheart. You should get back to practice, but I'll be right here cheering for you." Eva hesitated. She looked directly at Derek. "My aunt drove me here every week after working all day. She's stronger than anybody I know." The gym grew noticeably quieter. Some of Derek's own students shifted uneasily. Children often spoke with an honesty adults had forgotten. Derek forced a laugh that's sweet. But life doesn't hand out trophies for trying. He stepped closer, reducing the space between himself and Monica. If she's really that strong, maybe she should stop standing on the sidelines and prove it. Monica slowly exhaled. She had spent years teaching herself that not every insult deserved an answer. Sometimes walking away required far more courage than stepping forward. She looked directly into Derek's eyes. "I'm not here to prove anything. I'm here for family." She turned slightly toward the youth practice area, making it clear the conversation was over. But Derek wasn't ready to let his audience disappear. He took another step forward, smiling as if the next move would entertain the crowd even more. Derek let out a slow laugh, the kind that was designed to invite everyone else to join in. A handful of younger students followed his lead, though the laughter sounded weaker this time. The atmosphere inside the gym had shifted. What had started as casual teasing was becoming something far more uncomfortable, and people were beginning to realize it. Monica remained exactly where she was. She neither stepped backward nor forward. Her breathing stayed slow, and even her shoulders relaxed. Her eyes focused not on Derek's black belt, but on his face. Years of overcoming hardship had taught her that confidence didn't need volume. It didn't need an audience. It simply needed discipline. You know, Derek said, pacing in a slow circle around her, people always say confidence comes from the inside. He smirked. I disagree. He tapped the embroidered black belt wrapped around his waist. Confidence comes from learning something. It comes from proving yourself. Monica answered calmly. Sometimes the single word caught Derek off guard. No argument, no excuses. No speech about respect. Monica gave a faint smile. I've learned that not every opinion deserves a debate. Several adults standing nearby exchanged approving glances. Officer Daniel Ruiz had quietly moved closer, with Officer Jasmine Brooks, another member of the community policing team assigned to the outreach event. Jasmine had spent nearly 12 years serving neighborhoods across Houston, and one lesson had never changed. Real courage rarely announced itself. She folded her arms and continued observing from a respectful distance, allowing people the chance to solve problems peacefully. Whenever possible, a little boy tugged gently on his father's sleeve. Dad, why is that man being mean to her? His father looked embarrassed before answering quietly. Because sometimes people mistake kindness for weakness. Those words drifted just far enough for Monica to hear. She looked toward the father and offered him a grateful smile. Derek noticed again, someone else was paying attention to Monica instead of him. His frustration continued growing. So what happened? Derek asked loudly. You quit? Were sports too hard, or did life just get in the way? The questions weren't genuine. They were weapons disguised as curiosity. Monica looked down briefly at her prosthetic. Before raising her eyes again, there was an accident, she offered. Nothing more, no dramatic explanation. No request for sympathy, just the truth. Derek shrugged dismissively. That's unfortunate, but life doesn't stop because something bad happens. No, Monica replied. It doesn't. The calm certainty in her voice carried a weight that surprised everyone listening. Only Monica knew how many years were hidden inside those two words. Long hospital nights, learning to balance again, learning to trust herself again, learning that strength wasn't measured by what remained. It was measured by what refused to break. Across the gym, Ava watched every second unfold. Her youth instructor gently placed a hand on her shoulder. You know, your Aunt Ava nodded proudly. She's my hero, the instructor smiled. I can see why Officer Jasmine Brooks quietly walked over to Ava. You okay? Ava nodded. I'm just worried she'll let him keep talking. Jasmine smiled warmly. Sometimes the strongest people don't rush to win an argument. They wait until character reveals itself. Back near the center of the gym, Derek had attracted nearly everyone's attention. Parents stopped scrolling through their phones. Students stopped stretching. Even the front desk receptionist had stepped out into the hallway to see what the growing silence was about. Derek spread his arms dramatically. Folks, this is exactly what I'm talking about. If someone confronts you in real life, standing there quietly won't save you. You have to show strength, Monica answered without raising her voice. Strength looks different than most people think. He laughed again. No, it looks exactly like this. He pointed toward his own chest. It looks like confidence. It looks like power. It looks like never letting anyone think you're vulnerable. Monica studied him for a long second. I hope one day you discover the difference between confidence and compassion. The sentence landed harder than any insult could have. Several students lowered their eyes. One young woman quietly removed the gym's promotional hoodie she had planned to purchase and folded it over her arm, no longer interested in supporting what she was witnessing. Officer Ruiz exchanged a glance with Officer Brooks. Neither officer wanted to embarrass the instructor in front of the community, but both understood that respect was earned by protecting dignity, not by protecting pride. Before either officer could step forward, Derek took another deliberate step toward Monica, reducing the distance until only a few feet separated them. His confident smile returned. "If you're really as strong as you say," he said loud enough for the entire gym to hear, "why don't you stop hiding behind words and step onto the mat?" Monica looked at Derek for several quiet seconds before answering. There was no anger in her expression, no frustration, and certainly no fear. The years had taught her something that no martial arts class ever could. People who desperately needed to prove they were strong were often fighting battles inside themselves that nobody else could see. "I'm not stepping onto that mat," she said calmly. "I'm here to support my niece." Nothing more. Derek shook his head with a sarcastic grin. "There it is, the excuse. You keep talking about family because you know you can't handle yourself." Several students laughed again, though this time their laughter faded almost immediately. Officer Jasmine Brooks stepped a little closer, her eyes moving from Derek to Monica. "You all right, ma'am?" she asked politely. Monica smiled warmly. "I'm fine, officer." "I appreciate you asking," Jasmine nodded, but remained nearby. She had worked enough community events to recognize when someone's pride was pushing a situation toward unnecessary conflict. Across the room, Ava stood frozen. She wanted to defend her aunt. She wanted to yell, but she also knew Monica. She knew the woman who had spent years teaching her that losing control only handed power to someone who didn't deserve it. Derek noticed the officers watching. Instead of calming down, he puffed out his chest, what he called loudly, "We're just having a conversation. This is a self-defense gym. People should expect honesty." Officer Daniel Ruiz answered evenly. "Honesty doesn't require disrespect." Several parents nodded quietly. The atmosphere inside the gym had completely changed. Nobody was recording flashy demonstrations anymore. Now phones were pointed toward Derek himself, not because they admired him, because they couldn't believe what they were witnessing. Derek realized he was losing the rum. His ego refused to accept it. He walked onto the center mat and spread his arms dramatically. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "martial arts is about courage. If someone claims strength, they should be willing to prove it." He looked directly at Monica, unless his smile widened. "You're exactly what I said. 2 weeks silence." Monica slowly removed her denim jacket and folded it neatly over the back of a nearby chair, not because she had accepted his challenge, simply because the gym had become warm beneath the crowded lights. She rolled the sleeves of her olive green shirt to her forearms. The movement revealed a faded bracelet, engraved with a simple message. "Keep going." Officer Brooks noticed it immediately. So did Ava. That bracelet had been given to Monica during months of rehabilitation after the accident that changed her life forever. Monica walked forward only far enough that everyone could hear her, without raising her voice. "My parents taught me something when I was little. They said your character is revealed by how you treat people who can do nothing for you." She looked around the gym. "I've tried to live by that every day." Then her eyes returned to Derek. "I'm asking one last time, please let this go." For a brief second, the room held its breath. Several students silently hoped Derek would laugh, shake a hand, and end the confrontation. Instead, he took another step. "If you won't prove yourself." He reached out and grabbed Monica's wrist. It wasn't violent, it wasn't painful, but it was disrespectful. The entire gym froze. Officer Ruiz's expression changed instantly. His voice became firm. "Sir, release her without hesitation, without argument, without delay." Monica gently rotated her wrist using a small, precise movement learned through years of adaptive self-defense training. She didn't strike. She didn't twist Derek's arm. She simply redirected his grip until his own fingers slipped away. Naturally, the movement lasted less than a second. So smooth, so controlled that half the crowd barely understood what had happened. Derek blinked, his smile disappeared. Officer Brooks noticed immediately. So did that. She thought that wasn't luck. That was training, years of disciplined training. The crowd had become completely silent. Monica stepped back exactly one pace, restoring the distance between them. "I don't want to embarrass you," she said softly. "I never came here to fight. But you don't get to put your hands on people simply because you think they're weaker than you." Those words echoed through the gym far louder than shouting ever could. Instead of listening, Derek's wounded pride made one final decision. He pulled off his black belt, tossed it onto the mat beside him, and raised his hands into a fighting stance. "If you're really that confident," he said through clenched teeth, "show everybody what you've got." Monica looked briefly toward Officer Ruiz and Officer Brooks. Both officers gave subtle nods, making it clear they would ensure everyone's safety. Then she glanced toward Ava, whose worried eyes never left her aunt. Monica took one slow breath, quietly accepting that sometimes the only way to stop a bully from humiliating others was to stand your ground with dignity, discipline, and complete control. Monica looked at Derek for a long moment before taking a slow step onto the edge of the mat. There was no dramatic entrance, no raised fists, no attempt to intimidate him. She simply stood with quiet confidence. Her weight balanced naturally despite the carbon fiber prosthetic beneath her jeans. The gym felt completely silent. Children stopped whispering. Parents lowered their phones. Even the music playing softly through the overhead speakers suddenly felt distant. Officer Daniel Ruiz folded his hands calmly in front of him, while Officer Jasmine Brooks positioned herself near the edge of the mat. Neither officer expected trouble, but both understood their responsibility. Their presence wasn't about choosing sides. It was about making sure respect and safety remained the priority. Monica spoke first. "I don't want anyone getting hurt." Her voice carried across the room with remarkable calm. "I'm asking you one final time. Walk away," Derek laughed. "If I walk away now, everyone here will think I'm afraid of you." Monica answered quietly, "No. They'll think you're wise." Several people nodded almost instinctively. One elderly veteran sitting near the back of the gym smiled to himself. He had heard words like that before, not from fighters, from leaders. Derek ignored every opportunity to end the confrontation. His pride had become louder than his judgment. He bounced lightly on the balls of his feet, rolling his shoulders, exactly as he had before every public demonstration. "You ready?" he asked. Monica didn't raise her hands. She didn't take a fighting stance. She simply replied, "I've been ready to leave since I walked in." That answer confused him. He expected confidence, he expected anger. He did not expect peace without warning. Derek rushed forward, reaching with both hands to shove Monica backward and embarrass her in front of the entire gym. Gasps echoed across the room. Ava instinctively covered her mouth. Officer Brooks shifted one step forward, but paused before Derek's hands could establish control. Monica turned her body only a few inches. The movement was so small that many people barely noticed it. Instead of resisting his momentum, she redirected it. Derek stumbled forward, losing his balance before he even realized what had happened. Monica never pushed him. She simply wasn't standing where he expected. The instructor caught himself before falling. His face flushed bright red. Embarrassment quickly transformed into frustration. "No," he muttered. "You got lucky." Monica gently shook her head. "Luck disappears, discipline stays." The words lingered in the air. Derek charged again. This time he threw a wide, powerful right hook. It was fueled by anger rather than technique. Monica calmly stepped inside the swing. Using nothing more than controlled footwork and a precise open-hand redirection, she guided his arms safely away from her body. At the same moment, she lightly placed her palm against his shoulder. It wasn't a strike, it wasn't violent. It simply redirected his own forward momentum. Derek's feet tangled beneath him. He lost his balance and landed on one knee in the center of the mat. The entire gym watched in stunned silence. Nobody could believe what they had just seen. She hadn't attacked. She hadn't humiliated him. She had simply remained composed while allowing his aggression to defeat itself. Officer Ruiz exchanged a quiet glance with Officer Brooks. "This is exactly what self-defense is supposed to look like," he whispered. "Minimum force, maximum control nearby." Several parents began quietly applauding, not because Derek had fallen, because Monica had shown extraordinary restraint. She immediately stepped backward, creating space instead of taking advantage of the moment. "You don't have to continue," she said sincerely. "I'm not your enemy." Those words somehow wounded Derek's pride even more deeply. He sprang back to his feet, breathing heavily. His confidence had vanished. Only anger remained. He looked down briefly and finally noticed the subtle rhythm of Monica's stance. His eyes drifted toward her right leg. A cruel idea crossed his mind. "If your upper body works," he sneered, "I wonder how strong that leg really is." Several people immediately understood what he intended. No, Ava shouted. Officer Brooks raised her voice. Sir, stop right there. But Derek ignored both warnings. Driven entirely by ego, he launched a powerful, low kick directly toward Monica's prosthetic leg, believing it would collapse her to the mat and restore his reputation in front of everyone watching. Monica didn't attack, she didn't retaliate. She simply planted her feet, maintained perfect balance, and prepared herself as the entire gym watched in absolute silence, realizing that the next few seconds would change far more than the outcome of a confrontation. Derek's shin slammed into Monica's prosthetic leg. With all the force he could generate, a sharp metallic clang echoed across the gym. The sound didn't resemble flesh striking flesh. It sounded like steel colliding with steel. The expression on Derek's face changed instantly. His confidence disappeared before the pain even registered. He stumbled backward, grabbing his own leg as agony shot through his shin. Unable to keep his balance, he collapsed onto the mat, breathing heavily as he stared at Monica with complete disbelief. The gym fell into absolute silence. Nobody laughed, nobody cheered, nobody moved. Monica looked down at Derek, not with satisfaction but with genuine concern. "Are you hurt?" she asked calmly. The question stunned everyone even more than the confrontation itself. After everything he had said, after every insult, after every attempt to humiliate her, she was asking if he was okay. Officer Daniel Ruiz walked onto the mat beside Officer Jasmine Brooks. Ruiz knelt beside Derek. "Stay still for a second." He carefully examined Derek's injured leg before looking up. "I think it's bruised pretty badly." Officer Brooks then turned toward Monica. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Monica nodded. "I'm fine, officer." "Thank you." Ruiz slowly helped Derek sit upright. "You ignored several opportunities to walk away," he said firmly but respectfully. "Community events are built on respect, not intimidation." Derek lowered his head for the first time all evening. He had nothing to say. Monica slowly rolled up the right leg of her jeans. The crowd finally saw the sleek titanium and carbon fiber prosthetic that had supported her through every step she had taken. Inside the gym, several parents covered their mouths. A little girl whispered, "Mom, she's still standing." Her mother smiled proudly, because strength doesn't come from having two perfect legs. It comes from having an unbreakable heart. Those simple words spread quietly through the crowd. Ava walked onto the mat with tears in her eyes. She wrapped both arms around her aunt. "I knew you wouldn't let him change who you are." Monica hugged her tightly. "No one should ever have that kind of power." The gym owner finally stepped forward. His face was filled with regret. "Miss Carter, I owe you an apology. This facility was supposed to be a place where every member of this community felt welcome. We failed you tonight." Monica offered a gentle smile. "Then make tomorrow better. That's how communities grow." The owner nodded. "I will." Officer Brooks addressed the students gathered around the mat. "I've served this city for over a decade. I've met brave people wearing uniforms. I've met brave people wearing business suits. And tonight," she smiled toward Monica, "I met one of the bravest people, wearing a simple green shirt." You never judge someone's strength by what you see. You judge it by how they treat people, when they're given every reason not to. Applause slowly began near the back of the gym. One parent stood, then another. Soon the entire building was filled with applause. Not for a fight, not for a victory. For dignity, for restraint. For grace under pressure, Derek remained seated. He watched the standing ovation that wasn't meant for a champion wearing a black belt. It was for a black woman who had refused to let hatred define her character. Slowly, Derek stood. His injured leg trembled slightly. He walked toward Monica. Every eye followed him. He stopped a few feet away. He struggled to speak. "I was wrong. I judged you before I knew anything about you. I confused kindness with weakness. I'm sorry." Monica looked at him for several quiet seconds. Then she extended her hand. Real respect begins when someone chooses to learn, instead of pretending to know everything. Derek shook her hand. The applause grew even louder. Outside, the flashing blue lights of the community police cruiser reflected across the windows of the athletic center. For many families leaving that night, those lights represented something meaningful. Not fear, not authority, but service, protection, and the reminder that strong communities are built when ordinary people choose respect over pride. As Monica and Ava walked toward the parking lot together, their footsteps echoed softly across the sidewalk. Step click. Step click. Ava smiled. You know what everyone will remember from tonight. Monica looked at her. What they won't remember. The kick. They'll remember the woman who stayed kind. Monica smiled as they walked beneath the Texas evening sky. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't proving you're stronger than someone else. Sometimes it's proving that pain never took away your humanity. Real strength isn't measured by muscles, trophies or black belts. It's measured by character. Humility and the courage to stand with dignity when the world expects you to fall. And perhaps that's the lesson every person in that gym needed, far more than another self-defense demonstration. If this story touched your heart, I'd truly love to hear from you. Have you ever witnessed someone mistake kindness for weakness? What lesson stayed with you the most from Monica's journey? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story may encourage someone else who needs it today. And one more question for you. What kind of powerful justice story would you like to see next? Would you like another inspiring story about a courageous black woman, an unforgettable military veteran, a police officer who stands for what's right, or an arrogant bully who learns a life-changing lesson? Your ideas help shape future stories on the Justice Verdict. So don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and join our growing community until the next story. Remember, never judge someone's strength by what you can see, because the strongest people often carry battles the world will never know.